with Sonar. I'm Luke Falasca. We've got a fantastic lineup for you today. We are stacked today, especially as we head into the final moments of the year. We only have one more With Sonar show before the year ends. We've got Christmas on Sunday. Then we've got New Year's shortly after that. Tony and Tanner, you guys ready to finish the year strong or what?
Yeah, I mean, it's end of the year here, which feels crazy because it feels like yesterday was like summer and now it's, 50 degrees outside. It's supposed to be like in the 20s by the end of the week.
Today's the first day of winter too, I believe.
I know, it's crazy.
It is, yeah. Friday and Saturday are looking awfully cold. I'm not sure if I'm excited about that or not. So.
Yeah, well, I can't tell you about the weather, but I mean, I can tell you about some freight. So, we can kind of curve around that one here in a little bit. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a chilly one. But I'm excited here. We've got some very special guests that are going to be joining us here in a moment from our friends over at Redwood Logistics. But, I think a lot of the theme here, especially as we head into Christmas time, and I know, Tony, you've talked a lot about this, is, what do those holiday bumps look like, right? There's each holiday throughout the year kind of has a different reaction in terms of the freight market. So we're going to talk a little bit about, what that'll do as we head into Christmas, New Year's, and then ultimately, where that'll slingshot us in which direction as we go into January. Before we talk to that, though, I want to bring in a couple of our guests here. So we've got two special guests, both from Redwood today, joining us. One is a former FreightWaves employee who is returning to With Sonar. James Jackson, Director of Sales over at Redwood Logistics. Very glad to have you back here, James. And of course, joining James is the VP of Strategy over at Redwood, Sam Martinez. Sam, thank you also for joining. Glad to have you here. James, you've been here before, so give the folks a quick little reminder of who you are and what you're doing over there at Redwood.
Hey man, so great to be back. Great to see the team again. It's it's kind of like home, So now when I'm here at Redwood, my job is to really just grow our strategic sales side and really formulate and sell across all platforms that Redwood has to offer. So Redwood is one of the pioneers who coined the term of LPaaS, so that's Logistics Platform as a Service. And so I'm part of Team Move. So we have Move, Manage, and Innovate. And so we can help our strategic clients across all platforms as well, from your traditional 3PL brokerage all the way up to our rating API and our software solutions.
That's awesome. Glad to have you back here, James. Sam, kick us off here. Give folks a quick little introduction of yourself and what you do over there at Redwood.
President of Strategic Solutions. I work and focus with Team Move, which is a team of sellers, primarily focused on, adding new accounts to our brokerage. Past that, the strategic solutions part is I work cross-functionally with Manage and Innovate divisions here at Redwood, which puts me in a really unique place. I'm really happy about that. And also recruiting talent. I'm out there making sure, interviewing new candidates. I think the job market is a weird place right now, but Redwood is growing. So for all of those talented brokers out there, hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm ready to engage.
That's awesome. Glad to have you here. I don't know, James, if you're getting nervous by that, he's recruiting talent, so that's it could be questionable. No, I'm teasing, but I'm coming for you. I might follow you over there. But no, folks, what something that I think is interesting that we've got to discuss here, especially as we've got the year in the rearview mirror here. And Tony and Tanner, I'm going to actually pitch this question to you guys first, and then we're going to go over to you and Sam and James. We've seen 2022 has been definitely a volatile year. The last few years have, we know that. But 2022 is almost, dare I say, settled a little bit more compared to 2020 and 2021. From your perspective, what surprised you the most about 2022? Maybe either that did happen or even that didn't happen.
I'd say, for me, I think the biggest surprise has been the rate of the change, right? We've talked about it. Obviously, you've seen the freight market slow down as a whole, right? And I don't think anybody is denying it now that things have changed dramatically, right? I mean, you start looking at rejection rates at sub 5%. Spot rates are down, 25, 30% off their highs. I mean, and still kind of in that decline. I mean, you're talking I think the key or the biggest thing that was the surprise to me was how fast it all happened. It was like a switch flipped and the market just started softening. It was like we realized, hey, we have way too much capacity. Demand is starting to slow or ease. I mean, you're seeing it, and it happened. It feels like almost overnight.
Right.
The interesting to me about this year is that it's something different every time that makes the market change, right? We talked about it being import demand. Then now we're talking about it being fuel. At one point it was about warehousing. So it's interesting to see that there's so many different topics and so many different things that have made the changes this year versus in history, it's usually one or two segments throughout the year. That's really what we've been talking with our customers about, and it's been interesting about us and about what's going on this year.
That's great. Sam, let's go to you there more on the strategic side first. You guys are definitely boots on the ground. You've got your hands in a lot of places. From your perspective, same question. What surprised you most about 2022, either where we've landed or maybe how we got here?
Yeah, a lot surprised me about 2022. I think what stands out most is the acceleration of which we saw kind of the tale of two markets in 2022. The pandemic was crazy enough. And then, March, we saw things start to decline. And I think, that served for a lot of efficiency gains in terms of, when you look at a company's landscape, are you primarily a broker? 90% of your revenue is coming in through your brokerage versus like a 4PL, a Redwood, for example. We have multiple divisions. And I think when you see cycles like that, I've been in the industry for 14 years. I've typically seen it happen, but not to where it happened this year. I think technology just across all sectors is for the shippers, for the carriers, for the brokers. I think we just saw an accelerated, increase there. And I think for companies that are brokerage focused, and that's where the majority of their revenue is coming from versus the strategic 4PL, I feel like you have different gains in both directions. So it was a shocking year in 2022, but I think, Redwood handled it, very well.
Yeah. I'm not going to forget about you, James. Sam, let me ask one follow-up on top of that, right? Kind of given, I guess, a lot of that acceleration there, and you guys are in a unique position to almost pull on different levers, if you will, of the business, right? Rather than being a one-trick pony. Is that, I guess, when do you decide maybe which levers to turn up and maybe which ones to turn down based on how the market is shifting?
It's a good question. Broad end of things, like executive leadership here at Redwood, right? They understand where the market's going. I think our clients and those partnerships for us probably hold the most truth in terms of like, how are they shifting focus? We saw by September or start of Q4, we saw a lot of shippers really get a hold of their domestic supply chains. You saw the annual bids go to semi-annual, go to quarterly, which all proved to be how good is your brokerage in a bad market? How good are your partnerships with your carriers so that they're in lock and step? And in order to hold on to this contract footprint with your client, you need to have the carriers that you're working with most on those lanes, on the same page and aligned there. So as far as like the other levers that we have at Redwood in terms of like our managed services division and technology, once shippers find and get a hold of their domestic supply chains, all of a sudden there's room for optimizations. All of a sudden they're going to look for ROI through technology and through, also other spaces where during the pandemic, parcel shipping, LTL shipping, there was no network optimization going on and the rates were going up. And as soon as things start slowing down, the best shippers, the partners that we have, start to find and strategize with their partners like a Redwood on where can we find gains and savings in LTL, in parcel. And so we look at all modes and all aspects of the supply chain to make sure that we're adding value. That's why I like working at Redwood, honestly.
That's awesome. James, boots on the ground there, right? What's it like? You're slinging the freight out there. All of us here are looking at numbers on the screen, but, what have those conversations been like through 2022?
Yeah, no, definitely. Great question there. So our conversation from boots on the ground standpoint is, touch off what Sam said, we're really feeling that tale of two markets, and it shifted overnight. And I think it's nothing that it's not necessarily uncharted waters, but I would say that our cycles are getting shorter, but they're getting more rapid. So we really have to stick to our niche markets, right? And just be omnipresent, right? So we need to just maintain that communication with our carriers, and we just gotta preach that message of, hey, we're here for the long haul. The rates are the rates are the rates, right? I mean, it's good market, bad market. I just think that if we just stick to your core competencies, ensure that just unfathomable level of service to your customers, and you'll be all right.
That's awesome. Tony, I saw you shaking your head there on kind of two things there, both when both Sam and James were talking about, shorter cycles and whatnot. From your perspective, how do you think that'll play a role as we go into 2023?
I mean, I think it's right now talking, I mean, especially around like the bid cycle, right? That talking from, as Sam said, I mean, when you start going from the annual bid cycle to the semi-annual bid cycle down to quarterly, I think that's a trend you're going to see, just given how fast the market is changing. I mean, you saw that acceleration. You have the technology available to do it now that you could have done it in the past, but it just wasn't as prevalent. And now shippers are kind of in this position to rebid freight a little more often. And I think that's going to be a trend you see, especially in 2023. I mean, yes, you're still going to have the annual bids. I don't think that's going away. I mean, there's a lot of shippers that are, I don't want to say stuck in their ways, but they know how things are done, but they're able to use some of this technology within their supply chain in the broader sense. Like, if they can use an RFP for quarterly, that's just like the very difficult lanes, right? It's like they can attack certain segments of their business at one time that before you maybe didn't see that in previous cycles.
And that definitely comes up when the market changes, right? So I'm sure one thing Redwood pays attention to is it's not really just about brokering freight. It's also about being a consultative partnership as well. And so when the market tends to go up and flips, which eventually next year it might do, if you don't have a strategic partnership and you don't take a consultative approach, usually these partnerships don't last. So from your guys' perspective, is that kind of something that you pay attention to, maybe moving into 2023? Do you have those consultative conversations about when you guys expect the market to change and help your customers understand what's happening in the market?
Absolutely. I think as the market has cooled off, and what I alluded to earlier about, shippers trying to find and gain efficiencies, it's just that. And I think they look at us just as much as we look at them, for understanding, is this a strategic partnership, or are you just a broker? And we want to make sure on the client-facing side at Redwood that the clients, especially the ones with the vast, large, complex supply chains, that they see us as the right strategic partner and can add value in different ways. And so we want to be able to say yes to conversations as opposed to saying we don't do that. Redwood Connect is a perfect example of, integration, implementation. It's a middleware platform for shippers. And the biggest difference for me selling brokerage at other, companies versus Redwood is that I talk about the TMS and I talk about the integration and implementation strategy for a client and saying, is that on your plate? Because transportation managers, they deal with the domestic, they deal with the importing, the drayage, they deal with all the problems. But when they deal with technology problems, that's a whole different conversation that we want to help navigate those shippers and take that consultative approach so they understand that if there is more to gain from my TMS, if there's more to gain through connectivity and other logistics applications that are out there, that I have a partner already established moving my freight that I can turn to for other, supply chain optimization, if you will.
Is there I'll throw this question to both you, James, as well as Sam. Is there Redwood Connect is a perfect example, and I know we partner up with you guys on that side of the business as well, so it's a great differentiator. As we go into not just 2023, but kind of that long-term vision of, let's just say, the rest of the decade, is there a pathway or an avenue that 3PLs need to differentiate themselves? I forget the exact number. I was reading it the other day, and it was around there's over 30,000 3PLs in the United States. It might even be more than that, but I forget the exact number. It was a very large number, right? Most of them never get above $1 million in revenue, and it's kind of like what you're saying, right? It's hard to differentiate. So I guess, is there an element or is there a gap in our industry right now that 3PLs can fill? Or kind of, I guess, what's that next maybe piece of technology or consultative or or service that 3PLs can fill to continue to differentiate themselves over the next, say, 5 years? Is there, and it's,
Yeah.
I'm asking you for a silver bullet here, and I know we don't have one, but give us the best guess. What is that?
So, given my background, right, I've worked for those $1 million companies. I've worked, for the big ones, worked for that technology. I think the biggest gap that we're going to be able to close within the next 5 years is just that technology thing. And when you go into companies such as Redwood, one of the things that stuck out with me is that we are tech focused, but we are experts within that logistics field. And so as you grow and as just the industry changes, it gets faster, right? You're going to have to compete. And some of that old school brokerage technique may have worked for the last 30 years, but without this tech piece, you're going to need that for the next 30 years in order to be able to scale and be successful and fulfill what your customers are needed. So I think that's going to be our biggest gap to overcome within the next 5 years.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, the gap is, all about core competencies are as a 3PL in this space, and I think we've seen accelerated growth from a lot of different brokerages through the pandemic. I think the sheer volume going through the network and the system was allowing a lot of brokers to accelerate faster than they ever thought they probably could. What came with that was a lot of hiring of bodies and people, right? So as a broker, are you tech enabled or are you people enabled or a combo of both? I think shippers are figuring out and weeding out the ones that are more manual, and also adding the ones or keeping the ones that have the tools in place to automate. They understand the procurement strategy, how we're adding value through capacity and efficiency gains through, say, API rating, and then on the carrier side, automating that carrier selection process through careful carrier selection. It's about the right truck, right? Not always about the cheapest truck. So as you navigate price with shippers in this market, again, a gap, right? That is very much a conversation that's always going to be fluid. No shipper wants to pay bottom of the barrel rates, and at the same time, no broker wants to offer bottom of the barrel rates because we service it better than that. Our value is more than that. So I think there's a gap there for the brokerage focused people. If you look at industry trends, just in terms of a lot of the M&A that happened in 2022, you're seeing large companies merge. I think Uber Transplace is one of them, where I think a lot of companies want to offer the full suite of services. I feel like Redwood is about 2.5 years ahead of that game, just in terms of logistics platform as a service and that offering that we've coined. I think Gartner will be very keen to that idea, and which 3PLs or 4PLs are strategically placed themselves for sure, market gains, for the next 5 to 10 years. I see that as a quadrant. I see El Paso as a quadrant from Gartner very, very soon.
No, definitely. Yeah, the Gartner quadrant is going to continue, I think, to expand for supply chain and logistics and freight. I think that we're going to continue to see that, and it'll be really exciting to see, which pieces gain a lot of traction. Now, it wouldn't be a with Sonar episode if we didn't actually show a Sonar chart. So we got to show a little bit of Sonar data here, and I'm going to take us. I'm actually going to go a little bit out of order, so hopefully the crew in the back doesn't get too upset with me. We're going to talk about fuel here, okay? Because fuel has been a hot topic lately. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the spread between wholesale and retail prices right now, because I think that's definitely thrown in a little bit of a wrench. Certainly did for quite a bit of 2022. There's only 120 there. And but I think it'll be interesting to see where that goes and its impact on spot rates as well as contract rates. Let's go ahead and throw this up on the screen for folks to see here. So we've got 2 lines there. We've got the ULSD rack price in the dark blue. That rack price is basically the wholesale price most of the large carriers are buying their fuel at. And then you've got the retail price or the truck stop price up in yellow at the top. That's what most of your small carriers are buying diesel at, or if you happen to have, a diesel car, you're probably buying pretty close to that price, plus or minus a few cents. Or, if you're in Hawaii or California, you're probably paying $57 more per gallon. But that's a big spread, and we noticed the choppiness on the way down, but the blue line, that wholesale price, is definitely a lot faster to react. In fact, it's pretty much back where it was before the big ramp up in 2022 when Russia-Ukraine really kicked off. I guess Tony and Tanner, what do you guys think this will do, or maybe what are the conversations that we're having with customers today around this, and kind of, I guess, how are they thinking about that as we head into the new year?
Yeah, it's definitely having an impact on the way our customers are thinking about fuel, especially when it comes to contracted rates, right? Contracted rates they're falling down. And so you obviously quote contracted rates based off the line haul and fuel. So if fuel is continuing to fall down, you're going to continue to see those fuel rates come down. And that also, carriers have to be able to have a line haul rate in order to be able to cover operational cost. And so if fuel is coming down, that means that their line haul rates are going to have to go up. And so that's something that all of our shipper clients, and especially any broker or carrier who's quoting contracted freight moving into 2023, they're going to have to pay attention to that. And they have to understand that where their operational cost at, and then from a broker side, where they feel like they're going to be able to cover with their network. And it's going to have an impact as we move into 2023. And I expect this rack price to continue to fall. I expect retail to eventually start to follow it as well. Convenience stores were trying to hold on to that margin for as long as they could. Obviously, it's starting to hit the pump.
We know.
We're going to see. Tony, what are you expecting it to happen in Q1?
Yeah, I think you're going to see a further decline, barring anything crazy really happening, right? I mean, rack prices kind of lead everything, lead the retail side, as you said. And now there's $1.83 spread between the wholesale and retail price. I think typically that number's closer to $1 to $1.10. So, I mean, you're talking, 70, 80 cents that retail price can fall right now with nothing and have no impact necessarily to those retail location, the margins that they need to cover their expenses, those taxes and things like that. They want to be in that $1.10 range. So, I mean, you've got plenty of room to run. I think we're going to see diesel prices continue to fall here in Q1.
Yeah.
It would not surprise me to see that.
So it certainly help a lot of the carriers who are in the spot market. All right, so we've got just about 3.5 minutes left. So final question to both Sam and James here. James, we're going to start with you, and Sam, we're going to end on you. And we're going to hold you to this here, okay? So bold prediction. Give me one bold prediction for 2023. It could be anything that you want, something you think that'll happen, a disruption, where you think a data set's going to go, who you think is going to win the Super Bowl. Any prediction that you want, let's make it. James, give it to us.
So bold prediction is I think that we're going to see a lot of exciting things. I think within the first part of the year is going to still be a little bit rocky, but as we head into that X or the heart of produce season, we're going to start to see everything kind of level out a little bit, and I think we're going to have an extremely strong finish to the end of 23. As far as the Super Bowl goes, even though we blew it last week in the overtime, I think my Dallas Cowboys are gonna go on and win it. I think Jerry's gonna get them one, first time in 30 years. I feel good about it.
No chance. Eagles all the way. All right, let's go, Sam.
Both good picks in the Super Bowl. My bold prediction is sustainability in 23 hitting the utmost importance for clients, for brokers, for carriers. I think it's such a big buzz term. I think on the carrier side, some of the largest fleets out there are going to grow in this market. They're just going to hire more drivers. Fuel, not as big as concern for them, but they are going to find ways to navigate sustainability. They're going to start tracking their carbon footprint on a load level basis because that's what these shippers of the world are going to start demanding. And I think the 3PLs that can answer that question, essentially check that box again, leads to how you're a strategic partner. So as these clients have executive teams asking about sustainability footprint, you want to make sure that even your broker partners are driving efficiency gains through their carbon footprints, which Redwood tracks at a load level starting the beginning of 23. We're in a pilot phase now. It's called Hyperion. And so we'll track it for every single one of our loads. We're strategically partnering with, say 10 large shippers. And we're building a platform for, by the end of 2023, ideally in Q4, we're going to be offering a platform to plug into, again, integration, implementation, technology company, into some of the more major TMSs out there. So that data feed of your carbon footprint and the goals that you set, Redwood's going to help you be able to measure against it. That's my bold prediction, sustainability, and how you stand out as a carrier partner, asset-based or brokerage or 3PL, and how you answer that question.
Awesome. That's good stuff. Sam, James, we're out of time, but thank you both so much for your time here today. We hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, a great New Year, kicking off 2023 with a whole lot of momentum. So thank you again, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you all. Thank you all so much. And by the way, Redwood is hiring. So if y'all are looking for a change, someone out there, give us a call. And if you're a shipper who is in need of solutions, Jay Jackson at redwoodlogistics.com will get you taken care of. But
I love it, James. I love it. Take care, all right? And for the folks watching, we're out of time, but we're glad you enjoyed the Whistler episode. We will see you next Wednesday live, same time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time, right after Christmas. And have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday.